Hey, I'm Elliot, and this is the Everything Elliot YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to like and subscribe below. Alright guys, in today's video, we're going to go through my 2001 Polaris Sportsman 400. I'm going to apologize for the noise in the background. I am in the shop today, and I am running the heater in the background. It's about probably 20 degrees outside, and I don't want to work here in the cold, so we're just going to work through it. I got a new microphone on the camera. Hopefully that makes things a little bit better. Well, I should say a little more tolerable. So, in previous videos in the shop here, you might have seen this Polaris that's been sitting here kind of in shambles. So, I've put all the new parts on it. It's just time to put it back together. So we're gonna go through that today. So what we're gonna start with first is the caliper up front here. We're just gonna put that back on. I'll get you guys up close and personal so you can see how it goes back on. It's pretty simple. I've already done the pads in it. It pretty much just needs to be slid back on there. All right, now that we're sitting down in front of the ATV, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set you guys down on the back side of the caliper, show you what goes into putting a caliper back on this 2001 Polaris Sportsman. So as you can see here, we've got the caliper, the brake pads, the brake disc, and I guess you'd call this the knuckle. So essentially, what you have here on the back side, or on this side, those two holes there, those are threaded. Those are gonna go on the inside between the knuckle and the brake disc. Now, seem to be having some trouble. What's happening is you need to slide the brake disc in between these two pads here. Sometimes they don't want to go because this piston is pushed out a little bit. If you can, you could try to push it by hand, which it went a little bit. Let's see if it's enough to slide it in there. It might be kind of tough to see, but as you can see right there, the pads need to be on the outside, just like that, and then it slides in. So once you've got the pad inside the disc, or I'm sorry, the disc inside the pads, these two holes that are in here, these holes that are here need to be lined up with those holes right there. And again, these are threaded, so that means the bolt needs to go through the knuckle into the caliper. Happen to have the bolts right here. So this is kind of just a find the hole game. Only threaded in a couple times because you also have to get the bottom one in. There's one on the bottom as well. You want to make sure both of them are lined up and start the threads before you start reefing down on them. So once those are started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you putting it on the outside because I won't be able to get the socket wrench in here. All right, now that you guys are set up, we're just going to tighten those bolts down. They are a 1/2 inch standard, using just a battery powered impact here. I usually like to just tighten them up just snug before you send them both home. But once they're both snug, just give that trigger a pull, let it eat. With a battery impact like this, it doesn't have enough juice to break any bolts or break anything, so you'll be fine doing this. I'm sure there's a torque spec for this. I don't know what it is, and I'm the only one that drives this, so I'm comfortable with making them race tight, which is just all this will give her. So now that we have that done, we're gonna start reinstalling the plastics on this machine. It shouldn't be too difficult of a process. Basically, when I took it off, I put all the nuts and bolts back into the holes where they belong, so there's no searching for them and having a bag of bolts not knowing what is what. That's the way that I recommend doing things. I know some people like to get little sandwich baggies, put all the bolts in them and label them that, you know, this is for the hood or this is for the right rear fender. I personally don't like doing that just because there goes the air compressor. Sorry about that. The air compressor actually provides air pressure to the heater. The heater's a waste oil heater and it needs air pressure to blow the oil to vaporize it so it burns. So, as I was saying, I don't like using a lot of the plastic baggies simply because it's a waste of plastic baggies. It's just as simple to put the bolts back in where you took them out from. That way there's no question as to where they came from. So, I'm going to get you guys a nice time-lapse video of me putting this all back together and hopefully get to finish it today. Alright, so what I've just done is hook back the winch controls up. As you can see it right here. Unfortunately, when I took it apart, I couldn't get some of the nuts out, so I had to cut the wires. So there's 4 possible wire combinations. Well, I shouldn't say there's four wires. I think positive and negative for in and positive and negative for out. It's going to be somewhat of a guessing game, so we're just going to turn the key on and see what happens, I guess. Nothing. Nothing happens. That could be because the battery's dead. I mean, the battery's got some juice in it. Not enough to crank over the engine, though. Well, even with the engine running for this small amount of time, it's not going to charge the battery to do the winch. So I guess I'll just put the winch control back in, and then one day when I get a new battery or the battery's charged up enough, I'll be able to test that and see what's going on with it. So for right now, I'm going to put it back together, finish putting the side panels back on, put the luggage racks on, the front and the rear, and then we'll put the wheels on and take it for a ride and see what happens. You might be saying to yourself, now Elliot, why are you using needle nose pliers to tighten down nuts and bolts? Well, the answer's simple. I can't get anything else back there. And it's a non-mechanical part. It's just a cosmetic, if you will. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get this top one. So this might be one of the ones we just let rattle around. I'm gonna have to take it apart when the battery's in there anyway, so I'm just gonna leave it a little bit loose like that. We'll finish putting the racks back on. Now I'll say this. I am the king of setting tools down and forgetting where I set them down. I can't find my adapter to make this go on here. So, looks like we're gonna be doing it by hand. Crackers on. I'm from now. Now when you're putting something together that has multiple bolts and multiple holes, it's always best practice to put all the bolts in first, thread them in 2 or 3 times, and then go back and tighten them all down. If you start with 1 bolt, put 1 bolt in, tighten it all the way down, you know, you might get 2 or 3 bolts to line up, but you're certainly not going to get all of them to line up. So if you start all of them threaded a couple times, then put them all the way in, you know all of them are going to fit. All right. So I have these aftermarket headlights, you know, just off eBay. As you can see, I've done a pretty good job at mangling them up, but they still work, so we're gonna keep them on there. We'll see what size this is. Alright, same thing with this. Before you start using an impact, you want to make sure that you have the bolts started or the nuts started. If you don't do that and you just kind of let it eat, you might end up cross-threading it, which is never a great thing. But, you know, as I always like to say, cross threads are better than no threads. Make sure this is somewhat straight. Oh, and that's not straight. Okay, that one's on there. Yeah, those are a little, it's whooped. Put the other side on too. And all we got left to do is put the wheels and tires back on. Alright, a little bit of a fitment issue here. Seems that when I put it back together, I crossed a wire around a support structure, so should be able to solve it just by clipping one of the zip ties. We're gonna find out. Lights are on, so we're going to putting the side panels on, putting the seat on, and we'll get the wheels and tires on. Now these panels can be a little tricky. I find it best to start in this front corner and then worry about the back after you have this front side in. This is a lot more flexible than the front is, so it's easier to put this side in and worry about this one later. You should hear a couple clicks, that means the front's in. That way you can just manipulate the back then. And 2 clicks there. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. It's gonna be the same exact process. The only difference is you got a gear shift over here. It's gonna be up and forward is the way you're gonna wanna push. Some of them you might have to convince a little bit, but that's in there. We'll do the back now. Make sure they click in. All right, let's get the seat on. The seat goes on really easily. You just, at an upward angle, slide it underneath the gas tank, and then it clicks in back here. There's a little lever back here that releases it, lift it up, and pull it back out. All right, that's it for body pieces. Now let's put the wheels and tires on so we can take this thing for a ride. Now when putting tires onto an ATV or tractor or even some vehicles, they have what's called directional tread. This is a directional tread. That means the tire needs to be put on a certain way. The tire has a front and a back, if you will. On this particular tire, the direction it needs to go in is starting on the inside, coming to the out. So that's why this one belongs on here. We'll put it on here for you. Also, when putting any wheel on any piece of equipment, whether that's a tractor, ATV, anything like that, you want to go in a star pattern. You don't want to go around the wheel. That might create like a wobble in the wheel. I'm sure you've seen tractor trailers going down the road. They've got a little bit of wobble in the wheel. It could be a couple things. Obviously, it could be a bent rim or something like that. But it could also be the way that they tighten down the lug nuts. So as you're going to see here, I'm going to go start at the top here. I'll go to the bottom, then I'll go crisscross. Now you might be saying to yourself, Elliot, you're only using a 1/4 inch battery powered impact. Certainly that's not enough ugga-duggas to tighten down your tire. Well, you'd be right. So that's why I'm gonna come back with a little bit of a breaker bar and just tighten them down a little bit. Again, like I said earlier, this is my machine. I'm the only one that rides it. Torque specs, never heard of her. I'm gonna make it race tight. Now I'd like to show you something over here. In the process of working on the ATV, I happened to knock the studs for the tire out of the hub. So they're loose, and I'm gonna show you real quick how to fix that problem. So as you can see right here, this is the lug, and this is the nut. It's a pretty simple design, actually. Comes right out. That way, if you ever break one of these, they're super simple to replace. So they're pressed in there, and if you actually look inside, you can see these little grooves right on here. They have little grooves on them, and on the inside of here, there's also little grooves. It's just a pressure fitting. So all you have to do to put them in, put your nut on there, grab your impact. You gotta hold your finger on the backside to give it a little bit of pressure, and just send it home. Pulls it all the way in, take your nut off of there, and now you're ready to put your tire on. All right, so now that the wheels are on, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually take this ATV, set it down on the ground. That way I can torque the nuts down to spec. As I told you, that's just race tight, so that's how tight we're gonna do them. So let me get this thing on the ground for you guys, all right? All right, the machine's on the ground, and it looks like it's ready to go outside. So, as you can see, I got a lot of stuff in here that I need to move out of the way. Mainly being the tractor. I don't know. It's really not a lot of stuff. It's just the tractor that needs to move. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to take the old ATV for a ride, see what happens. There's quite a bit of snow out there. These tires are pretty old. There's not much tread left on them, but this old girl's never let me down before, and I don't think she's going to start today. So we'll give it a try. Guys, well, the ATV's up and running, so had some fun. Glad everything's working good in it. So thanks for watching today's video. If you have any more suggestions on what I should be doing, make sure you leave a comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and have a great day.